You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, writer for USA Today for various SEC-related things, but on this podcast specifically, we take a dive into all things Kentucky athletics. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everybody that we are free and available on all platforms. All right, Kentucky victors over the Alabama Crimson Tide, 66-55 was the final score. 77-75 was my final score prediction. I did not think this game would climb into the 80s. I thought it was going to stay in the 70s, and I was wrong. It was a defensive affair down in Tuscaloosa. We're going to talk about the first half. We're going to talk about the second half, and then some final thoughts. As we normally do on the show, we're going to go over my parameters for Wildcat wins and see if they accomplished what they needed to accomplish. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. The first half, it was very clear from the get-go. Obviously, both these teams offensively like to run up and down the floor. They get out in transition, and then they try and attack the rim. It was very clear that Alabama wanted to play fast. There were touches in the paint early. They were very key. I believe Bediako got a couple of touches early on, and that really got Alabama's momentum going quick. And it was just like we said, the offense for the entire game. It was exactly like we said on Friday doing the breakdown episode. It was drive and kick for Alabama. It's just drive and kick over and over and over again. Alabama really wanted to put up as many shots as possible in this game, and they did not knock down a high clip as they finished with 55 points. And we'll get to more of that later on. But it was 9-1 Alabama early. And Grady then proceeded to settle things down with a three, so it was 9-4. And at that point forward, Kentucky just kind of slowly started to climb back into the game, and then everything was okay. So Alabama got out to a lead. They were running up and down the court like crazy. And then Kentucky just kind of established themselves. They started to stop panicking, and thankfully they did. And because I thought early on, I was like, oh, this is going to be LSU all over again. Great. Ty Washington, I wanted to talk about him quickly before we move on. He's still having a really hard time getting it going. He had several shots in this game that looked like they could have gone down and just completely missed on them. Was 6 of 15 on the day. He did have 15 points, but still, Washington, in terms of shooting and his percentages, he is going through a big-time slump right now. Mintz, though, coming off the bench, has really just accepted his role, and he's playing well. Was 3 of 9 from the floor, was Mintz, but he had several moments in the first half where it's just like he's playing well in transition. He got a dunk, he got a transition three. He was doing all the little things an experienced guard would. Oscar Tshiebwe was not playing very well in the first half, and he wasn't playing very, very well early on honestly, in my opinion, either end. He had 6 points early. He was eventually shut down, finished the game with 10. And Alabama did a really good job in putting him in a variety of situations in the first half defensively, where he had to foul, or he was just simply not put in a good situation in the paint, whether it be guarding a driving wing, whether it be guarding back downs on a post move, or whether it be trying to stay home when Alabama sent two at the glass, or whether it be guarding floater from Javon Quinterly. I mean, he was put in a lot of different situations to try and, I assume, stress him out, and it seemed like it really did in this game, even though he did finish with a double-double. Kentucky tried to push the pace like Alabama in this game. The pacing in this game was great outside of the turnovers, in my opinion. But it was, again, a little out of sorts at times. Like I mentioned, the turnovers, and we'll get to that later on in the second half analysis. But it was clear that Kentucky, like Alabama, really wanted to stress the opposing team defensively after makes or misses. So anytime Alabama put up a shot, and most of the time they missed on Saturday, whenever they put up a shot, Kentucky was immediately looking to get out and run with Severe Wheeler. And for the most part, I would say Kentucky's transition game was pretty solid. It was pretty solid overall. I was pleased with the fact that Kentucky got out and then ran well. Damion Collins, we've talked about him before on this show, about how we are advocates for more playing time for him. I believe he had 9 minutes in this game, finished with 10 points, played very well in the first half. After Tshiebwe got into a little bit of a foul trouble, again, played amazing. he was born to play the dunker spot in the weave offense. I mean, he does it perfectly. He needs to be more a part of the game plan moving forward, in my opinion. Kentucky has a little bit of a depth issue, in my personal opinion, or at least Cal has an issue with playing kids. I don't know, one or the other. And so we're going to need guys like Collins to step up and not necessarily get 10 points in 9 minutes, but to come off the bench and provide some length whenever your opposing guards and forwards are whenever opposing forwards are really hammering down on Oscar Tshiebwe, you're going to need to bring a spark off the bench. 0.7 points per possession for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the first half. That's not very good. For Alabama, it was really good for Kentucky defensively. That was the best for Kentucky against an SEC opponent this season, 0.7 points per possession. The defense came to play against one of the nation's better offenses. I was extremely pleased with the way that Kentucky played defenses. And I'm not going to lie, Alabama did have some looks in this game. They had some open looks. But I also cannot tell you how many different times I heard Alabama's rim just like thung, clang. Like their rims must be tight, dude, because you hit them and it's just like they don't even like bounce. It's just thunk. It was just a dull thud. It was hilarious. Anytime Alabama put up a shot, you just like, oh, this ain't going in. It was really funny. At least it was to me. Grady played well in the first half as well, in my opinion. He went 3 of 5 from the floor on the day. And I would argue that he should have taken more shots, but Alabama also made it really hard for him to get open. They made it really difficult for Kellen Grady to get open in this game. And honestly, they put a lot of pressure on Kentucky's guards for the majority of the night. I mean, Severe Wheeler didn't finish without a single point. Finished with a few turnovers as well. Alabama, we talked about it on Friday, does not necessarily create a ton of turnovers, but what they will do is put pressure on you physically and foul you. And I said that may be a concern heading into this game. And Kentucky got to the line more than they do on average, and Alabama got to the free throw line, I believe, 24 times in this game. So overall, I mean, free throws and fouling weren't crazy. Like, it wasn't a huge factor. What was more of a factor was Alabama's inability to shoot, and then Kentucky just simply clamping on defense. Early on, I was thinking this is going to be a bad matchup if Tshiebwe can't handle himself in the paint. And then Alabama just slowly cooled off, and they started to look to the three, and it just eventually wasn't working out for them. It was 33-27 at the half. Again, just a really solid showing for Kentucky's defense for the first 20 minutes of this game. We're going to talk about what happened in the second half and why Kentucky was able to pull away in just a second. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the playoffs right to the big game here in a couple of weeks. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season, and it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right along with live, real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, moving along here on the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Again, thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everybody that, again, we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Would really appreciate it if you're watching on YouTube, if you would subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. All right, second half analysis here. Kentucky, Alabama, defensive affair. Did not peg it as one. Let's get into the second half stats here. So we talked about Alabama putting a lot of shots up. They put up 64 in this game. They had 16 offensive rebounds, which allowed them to put up even more shots. And this was a game where Kentucky, for the second straight time, got out-rebounded. It was 47-44, and Alabama controlled the offensive glass. I want to point that out. I want to acknowledge the fact that it's not a good thing. And I also want to say, on the other hand, there were several times in this game where two things would happen. Number one, there would just be a long miss, and Alabama would just corral it. It would just be a lucky bounce, and Alabama would get to it first. So there's not really a whole lot Kentucky could have done in that department. And then second off, there were so many different misses at the rim where it would be a missed shot, and then Alabama would get it back and try and put it back up, and then they miss it again. So I think that number, 16 offensive rebounds, is inflated by the fact that they just got lucky on misses, and then also they were just missing point-blank shots at the rim, and they were getting it back, and they were still missing. So overall, I don't think it's a huge deal that Kentucky got out-rebounded by 3 in this game. They still won the game by 11. It also, as the game went on, Alabama didn't really start to get a lot more offensive rebounds, and they started to get colder and colder from the floor. It was very, very apparent that it was just not Alabama's shooting night. They chucked up so many threes in this game that just would not go down. And eventually, Kentucky got out and ran when the opportunity arose, and they established themselves in the second half and capitalized on just about every single mistake that Alabama made. And the lead grew. I mean, Alabama at one point cut it to 4, and then Kentucky grew it into double digits, finished the game winning by 11. And they were up by quite a bit, actually, with 2:50 left in this game. They were up 61-44 after Keon Brooks. It was an outlet pass after an Alabama miss for a dunk. I mean, that was just kind of the epitome of the game. It's like, Alabama misses a 3. Here goes Keon Brooks. Here's a slam in transition. That was just kind of the epitome of the game. Kentucky capitalized in transition, and Alabama couldn't finish at all. The pacing, like I mentioned in the first half segment, pacing was okay, but turnovers were a problem. 15 apiece for both teams. And both teams capitalized. 17 points for Kentucky off of turnovers, 14 for Alabama. It was important in this game to get out and run, and Kentucky just simply did a better job of it. And we also talked about something else important in this game. We talked about this on Friday, about Alabama's young front court versus Oscar Tshiebwe and how they would handle Tshiebwe. And, the Tide love to play physical and they love to foul you. Talked about that. We've established this. And Tshiebwe got pushed around quite a bit in this game. Not saying the officials didn't call anything right. It was actually, I thought, overall a well-officiated game. Believe it or not. Crazy, right? Tshiebwe got pushed around a little bit in this game. Alabama played their physical brand down low, and Tshiebwe finished with 10 points. He was 4 of 13 from the field. He also had 4 personal fouls. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Tshiebwe played terrible. I think he had a bad game opposed to what he normally does. But, I mean, he got pushed around a little bit by Charles Bediako. And that's a concern moving forward if Kentucky runs into somebody that has a strong post presence. A team similar to Auburn, a team similar to Purdue, a team similar to Gonzaga. How does Kentucky handle that? They don't really have a lot of guys that are sitting at 6'9", 6'10". In fact, I don't really know if they've got anybody that could be more of a legitimate presence inside than Tshiebwe, and he's 6'9". So this, in my opinion, it's okay in this game. So we won. We played great defense, but we can't afford Tshiebwe to just get bullied in the paint moving forward. We can't afford to let that happen. And it was clear that Bediako was going to be part of the game plan defensively, and he made his mark. He played really well, held Tshiebwe 4-13. And Bediako himself also had 12 points and at every shot he took was 4-4 from the floor. So props to Bediako for coming in as a freshman and stepping up and making plays whenever he needed to. Alabama, again, like I mentioned, cut it to 4 late, and then Kentucky just simply started executing. It's something that I thought was very important in the second half, and I wrote this down, is that they started to get back in transition when Alabama wanted to run, and it forced Alabama to play somewhat of a half-court game. And even then, Alabama didn't really seem like they wanted to do that. It seemed like they just wanted to chuck up threes, just drive and kick, and nothing was going down. I mean, nothing. Alabama, if you did not see it, this is probably the biggest statistic of the game. Alabama shot 33s. And we talked about that on Friday. On average, they put up 30 a game. They made 3 of them. They shot 30 threes, and they made 3. 10% from downtown. That I don't know if I've seen that in a game in quite some time for any college basketball team, honestly. I don't think I've seen a team shoot 10% from 3. That is really, really bad. And again, props to Kentucky's defense for stepping up in this game. I mean, efficiency-wise, they're top 15 in the country, but there were some looks in this game that Alabama just had and they just missed. And it's their home court. They couldn't shoot on their home court. This is really odd to see. Again, rebounds didn't go Kentucky's way. Both teams had the same amount of turnovers. Oscar Tshiebwe didn't play great. And Alabama, they got shut down. They were shut down. Severe Wheeler also went scoreless for the first time since the LSU game. He only played 4 minutes in that LSU game. By the way, he played 33 today, or in this game, excuse me. But in this game, he finished with 3 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals. Also had 4 turnovers, but still, play like a point guard should. Now, if he made one of those 4 shots, that's a good night for Wheeler on a game where Kentucky made had 66 points. And with about a fourth left in the game, Kentucky really started to slow the game down. I mean, obviously, the pace was important in this game, pushing it up and down the court. And in Kentucky, it seemed like they felt like they kind of did that. And it was like, okay, we accomplished that. They got a couple of looks at the rim, got a couple of lobs, and they extended their lead. And with about 3 minutes left, it was all she wrote. That was it. Alabama tried to come back. J.D. Davidson scored, I believe, 5 or 6 points within that 2-minute and 50-second stretch. It just simply wasn't enough. 66-55 was the final score. Kentucky kind of just went in there and handled business in the second half. Played great defense. Really, really good defense. And I've been waiting for that out of this squad against a legitimate opponent offensively, right? We've been waiting to see that in SEC play where they can shut a team down. And we got to see it. 55 points on the road against a team that averages a little over 80 a game. And you really started to soak it in at the end of that game. It's like, this is not necessarily an NCAA tournament type of environment, right? But it's an NCAA tournament type of game. And whenever you, talking about Kentucky, are matched up as a 2 seed against a 15 seed, and then moving on down the bracket, if you're going to play against a team like South Dakota State, for instance, who's averaging 86 a game, you're going to have to be able to step in there and shut them down, at least somewhat. You got to be able to establish yourself. And this really felt like a similar type of product that we could see in an NCAA tournament game. This is an NCAA tournament team. I think that this is proof that Kentucky can make the Elite Eight, the Final Four. They could win a title. I think this was a game that proved it. And again, Alabama is no slouch. They're 14-9 right now. They're still in the top. I believe they're 19th in the KenPom rankings still. This is a team that had the most difficult strength of schedule in the country. They beat Baylor. They beat Gonzaga. They beat Houston. Baylor, by the way, I called that. I said that a few episodes ago. They're not as great as some people think. And it got slapped around by Kansas, who Kentucky just beat, by the way. So overall, I'm very impressed with this win. I'm very, very impressed with this win. I thought, and I said this on Friday, I thought this was a bad matchup. I thought it was a really bad matchup. And Alabama just was shut down on the defensive end. All right, we're going to go over some final thoughts here. The parameters that I set around Kentucky Wildcat wins. Did Kentucky execute to my liking? The answer is yes, but we're going to get into some more of the numbers. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about our friends at Built Bar. This is the time of year that, I've pretty much given up on my New Year's resolutions, guys. I mean, we're into February and all the things, or most of the things, I would say, I've just kind of checked out on, right? But there's one thing that I'm going to stick to. There's one resolution that I've got, and it's to eat right. I'm still doing that, and it's all thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not even really a resolution because, I actually enjoy eating Built Bars. They taste fantastic. Have you tried the Built Bar Puffs, by the way? And if you've not seen them, they're absolutely fantastic. It's a built thing. Puffs are absolutely fantastic. Some of the best tasting bars and puffs out there does Built have. Puffs actually are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. Can you believe that? It sounds crazy. Let me tell you something. They're fluffy. They're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. I'm telling you, these things are going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and they've got so many different amazing flavors to choose from. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and for this month, they've got white chocolate cookies and cream. Goodness gracious, I cannot wait to try that. They are all absolutely delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It will be delicious, and it will also be really good for you. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, and then they figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. They're absolutely fantastic. And if you want, you can go to Built.com right now and use promo code LOCK15, and you can get 15% off your order. If you want to get Puffs, you want to get Built Bar, I would highly encourage you to do both. You use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your order right now at Built.com. Check them out. All right, wrapping up the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Let's go ahead and go over some of the parameters here. So I've got 4. Did Kentucky shoot the ball well, have decent shot selection, play well in transition, and protect the rim? Those are the 4 things. Hold up 3 fingers. Those are 4 things that Kentucky has to do to win ball games in the SEC, particularly on the road. I believe I made these parameters after we lost the LSU game. Did Kentucky shoot the ball well in this game? Not exactly. Shot about 36% from 3, 40%, I believe, evenly from the floor. It's great to go 4 of 11 from 3. It's not great to shoot 40% from the floor, so I'll say not really, but Alabama was so abysmal on the offensive end that it kind of worked out. Have decent shot selection. Did Kentucky have decent shot selection? In my opinion, yes. The transition game was there all night. They made great decisions, in my opinion. There were turnovers. Don't get me wrong, there were turnovers, but they overall, when they wanted to take shots, I think they made great decisions in the shots that they took. So yes, did Kentucky play well in transition, both offensively and defensively? So like I just said, the transition game was there all night. They had 16 fast break points. That's good. That's good. Alabama, for all of their running and all of their offensive prowess that we've heard about, they can score. They've got all these different guards that can get out and get to the rim, and then they could shoot threes and stuff. Alabama had 4 fast break points. 4. So, yes, I would say that Kentucky played very well, both offensively and defensively in the transition game. 16 points of their own, and then 4 points led up to Alabama. Did Kentucky, final one here, did Kentucky protect the rim? Answer is yes. They held Alabama to 28% shooting. I mean, if you hold a team to 10% from 3 and 28% shooting from the floor, you're probably going to win, I would say, 95% of those games. Just going over some more stats here. The answer is yes. Kentucky checked most of the boxes in this game. They held Alabama to 10 assists. Kentucky had 12 steals in this game. They were really putting pressure on Alabama's guards, as did Alabama to Kentucky. Overall, I think this was just an incredible outing defensively. The highest scorer in this game was Charles Bediako, like I mentioned earlier. Alabama's guards, Javon Quinterly and Jaden Shackelford, when a combined 4 of 22 from the field, did not make a single 3. That's phenomenal for Kentucky. I mean, that is huge. Would not have expected Shackelford, who's averaging 17 a game, to be held to 6. And then Javon Quinterly, who is averaging 14 and a half, to be held to 7. I mean, the guard play was abysmal in this game for Alabama. And Kentucky had guys that just simply could guard it. They just played well. Kellen Grady played well defensively. Ty Washington played well defensively. Severe Wheeler, like we noted earlier, got 3 steals. Oscar Tshiebwe had 4 of his own. And then Damion Collins coming off the bench and Davian Mintz coming off the bench. They were great as well. So overall, this is a fantastic win for Kentucky, in my opinion. Very, very solid. We've got South Carolina on the road. Tomorrow, we're going to break down the Gamecocks on tomorrow's episode. And I just want to say, I mean, looking down this stretch, final thoughts here. Sharp's not going to play, but I don't know if that's going to hurt Kentucky if they're going to consistently pull out wins like they did on Saturday night. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_. You can follow the show on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. So if you've got any questions, comments, concerns, send them to me on the socials or on YouTube in the comments. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody, and God bless.